been given to someone or a certain entity to do a specific task or function. Authority, once delegated, is then used by a grantee to perform actions under his or her control. Power will always have a purpose. Power will always have a purpose. Now, all those things that I mentioned earlier, fame, wealth, people's attention, storing a whole bunch of things, all those things come as a result of delegated authority. All those things come as a result of power, but those things are not the purpose of the power. The purpose of the power is what Jesus has called us to do. All right, let me go to Matthew chapter 5, please. We are turning to Matthew chapter 5. And actually, before I turn over there, let me go back to, let me slow down. Let me go back to Matthew chapter 28. I'm going to read verse 20. He said, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. And then verse 19, he said, go ye therefore and teach all ethnos, all nations, all ethnicities. He's saying this power that I'm walking in, that you'll now be able to walk in, this is not race specific. He said this power will work with any race that you teach the Word of God to, any race that you teach this gospel to. He said, I want you to teach all nations, whether it's black, white, Puerto Rican, Korean, I don't care. He said all nations. He said, I want you to teach all nations. And he said, go ye therefore, as a result of, because of this reason, because all power has been given to him in heaven and in earth. All right, so now, some of you may say, well, I don't need all this power. I don't need all this attention. I'm not one to be in the limelight. It's great, Minister John, that you said we're called to walk in power, and it's great that we're called to walk in delegated authority, but we're simple folk. And since we're simple folk, we don't need all this limelight. I can understand that, but I hate to say this, but it's not about you. It's not about you at all. Because there's a gentleman by the name of Robert Gilmore Latourneau, better known as R.G. Latourneau. And this gentleman, he flew all across the world. He flew thousands of miles every week just to minister and speak on the Word of God. But the only thing is, this guy wasn't a preacher. He wasn't a preacher at all. He was actually a businessman. But he was a businessman that God had graced with almost 300 patents on earth-moving machines. And as a result of him being graced with that level of intellect, being graced with that anointing with earth-moving machines, he was made rich instantly. He grew in fame instantly. He grew in popularity instantly, and he amassed a lot of wealth instantly, but that wasn't the reason why he was doing that. He was just anointed to do that. So he went and preached throughout the week. And then get this, he gave 90%. Listen, not off of his personal income, not off of his salary. He gave 90% off of his salary. But he gave 90% of the company's profits back to the Lord. Do you know how rich you have to be? He had a family, he had homes, he had everything. But do you know how rich you have to be? How powerful you have to be to have so much that even 10% of what you make is still too much? But yet still, since he's, as we say, simple folk, and he didn't want all that, he gave it back to the Lord, but he could not help but be rich because he had been given all this authority. He had been given all this power to the point that he almost had 300 patents just on earth-moving machinery. So he could not help but get the results of that power, but the results of that power was not his purpose. No, his purpose was souls. His purpose was souls. So this lets us know that it's not about us. It's not about what we're comfortable with. There's sometimes God will push us into uncomfortable situations for the benefit of somebody else, to set someone else free. Do you think going to the cross was comfortable? Do you think being whipped with a cat of nine tails was comfortable? No. we will be called into places where we have to let our light shine. We won't have any other choice about it because this power that's been given to us was paid for at a great cost. Not to us, but to Him. Him that is expecting us to do what He's called us to do. When we go to Matthew chapter 5, He's very specific on what He's thinking we should do with what He's given us. Matthew chapter 5. I'm going to pick up in verse 13. Praise God. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. This is Jesus talking, and He says, "Ye are the salt or the preserver of the earth." We're called to make this earth flavorful. We're called to preserve this earth. Jesus said, you're the salt of the earth. This is your job. This is what you're here for. He said, but if the salt have lost his savor or lost his strength, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth, should I say this out loud? Good for nothing. Now, first of all, I didn't call anyone here good for nothing. Those are Jesus' words. But He actually expects us to use the authority that has been delegated to us to influence the world for His glory. There is nobody that should be more influential. There is nobody that should be more change, that should have the ability to change more of his or her environment than the believer. That's what we're here for. We're called to make things flavorful. We're called to preserve life and preserve things here on earth. That's what we're here for. Just like R.G. Latourneau was able to walk in that power that he was demonstrating on a daily life, that's what God expects of all our people, all of His people. Amen? All right, so now this is power with a purpose. This is having power with a purpose. Let's turn to Proverbs chapter 29, please. Today we're ministering on power with a purpose. So we're talking about power to reign, and we talked about how with power comes wealth, with power comes fame and popularity and people's attention and all these things. That's not the purpose of power. All these things are linked to power. All these things are linked to delegated authority. Proverbs chapter 29, I'm going to pick up in verse, I'm going to pick up in verse 2. And it reads, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. The people actually mourn. But when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. Who are the righteous? We are. So we're called to be in authority. We're called to be influential. We're called to be able to change environments. And God expects us to be in places where we can do that. All right, so this is God's expectation of us. And since He loves the world, He's just saying, hey, that when the righteous are in authority, people rejoice. He's not just saying that. He's saying that because He wants the people to rejoice. He doesn't want people to just live in life mourning. He wants the righteous to be in authority. This is what being salt means. This is what being a preservative means. Salt is used to preserve things back in the day when they didn't have refrigerators. So they would pack things in salt to preserve it from decaying and from mildewing. Your job is to prevent your environment from decaying. Your job is to prevent your environment from going astray, from mildewing. That's our job. That's what we're here for. But we can't do that if we're not in places of authority. We can't do that if we don't walk in our God-given right, which is to operate in power in daily lives. All right, so we're called to preserve the world. He expects us to walk in this authority. He expects us to walk in this ability that He's given us. All right, so how do we do this? He gives us the power to do it. Now, we're going to learn a new word today. I'm going to turn to Deuteronomy chapter 8. And while I'm turning over there, power, delegated authority, we saw it in the New Testament as exousia. Delegated authority in the Old Testament was a Hebrew word that was called keo. So now sometimes it was used synonymously with wealth. Sometimes you'll see the word wealth, sometimes you'll see the word power, but it still meant the same thing. All right, so it still meant the same thing. All right, so let me turn to Deuteronomy as we get over there. I'm going to turn to Deuteronomy chapter 8. All right, so when we turn to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 17, it says, "And thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand has gotten me this wealth." This word wealth is that word kahil, which means power, influence over resources, people, strength, substance, goods, and military forces. That's what that one word means. Here it's transcribed as wealth. Verse 18, "But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that hath given thee the ability," or the power, to get this power, influence over resources, people, strength, substance, goods, and military forces. He's the one that's giving you the ability to get this. When we talked about R.G. Letourneau and how he came up with almost 300 patents just for earth-moving machinery, you don't just wake up with that ability. You don't just wake up having that wisdom. You don't just wake up having that level of understanding. No, God gave him the power to get that wealth. Why did he do that? So that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers as it is this day. We're in covenant. We're in covenant with him. We're in covenant with God. And we're under a new covenant where the blood was shed for us for that covenant. As a result of that, we have power to get wealth. What does that word wealth again mean? The Hebrew word kale, it means power, influence over resources, people, strength, substance, goods, and military forces. This is what God gives us the ability to get. This is what God gives us the ability to have influence over. So we see here that we're supposed to be the head, not the tail, above only and never beneath. So now we can say that all this is power with a purpose. We're not getting all this just so that we can say, yeah, we've arrived. Yeah, we got it. Look at us. Look at the things we've amassed. Look at the things that we have now. No, we're doing this because we have a purpose. We have a mandate. This is what we're called to do. Okay, so now this ability that God has graced us with, it manifests in different ways. That's what we're going to be talking about when we talk about power to reign. We're going to be talking about the different ways in which it manifests. For R.G. Letourneau, it manifested in what the world refers to as expert authority. He was an expert in the area of machines that move the earth, earth-moving machinery. He had expert authority, and as a result of him being an expert in that, power was transferred to him. Wealth was transferred to him. He had so much that he gave away 90% of it, and the 10% he had was still more than enough for him and his family. All right, so we see that the anointing was manifested in his being an expert. All right, so now there will be some things that we're able to do that other people simply won't be able to do. I'm sorry. Other people won't be able to do what you do. Now, 90% of what you do, someone else can do. 5% of what you do, someone else can be trained to do. But there's that last 5% that no matter how people try, no matter how much training they go through, no matter what they do, they will not be able to do that last 5%. Why is that? Because that 5% is supernatural. That's something that you've been graced to do that no one else can do. That's something that only you're anointed to do that I can't do. I don't care how much I admire you. I don't care how much I want to try to mimic you or be like you. I will not be able to do some of the things that you do. Why is that? Because that's your calling and not my own. And as a result of that, that's what you want to major in. That's what you want to stay focused on. That's what God has ordained and set up to transfer power into your hand. All right, so now, again, that word power, where it says he's given us power to get wealth, that word translated is power, influence over resources, people, strength, substance, goods, and military forces. All right, so now we see an example of this when we look at Joseph. All right, so we're going to turn there real briefly. Genesis chapter 39, please. Let's get over there as we get deep into this. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Genesis chapter 39, we're going to pick up in verse 2. It says, "And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian." All right, so, wait, he was a slave. So how is he still successful? How is he still prosperous? How can you be a successful slave? It's almost like saying you're a healthy fat man. The two just don't go together. But yet still they're saying, oh, he's a successful slave. He's a prosperous slave. All right, so Joseph is graced so much by God that he's prosperous even as a slave. God's grace is working in his life, and God's grace will work in your life no matter where you are. So now faith is. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So that means that God's grace works for you right now, regardless of where you are, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of where you're at in life. His grace is still supposed to take you to the top. That's how power is supposed to be transferred to you. Okay, let's pick up in verse 3. And other people are supposed to see it. Other people are supposed to notice it. Verse 3, it says, and his master saw that the Lord was with him. How did he see? Because everything he did worked. Everything he did was successful. All right, so his master saw the Lord was with him, and the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. Who made it? The Lord did. Everything he did as a slave prospered in his hand. He was more successful as a slave than his master was over the ruler of his whole household, to the point that he gave him everything. He wanted him to do everything. Who did it? The Lord did it. All right, verse 6. Let's drop down to verse 6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not what he had. He didn't even know how much was in his account. He didn't know how much he owned. He didn't know how much property he had. It says, save the bread which he did eat. The only thing he knew he had was the food that was on his plate while he was eating it. Everything else, Joseph had control over. Why was all this power transferred to Joseph? Because he was anointed to operate in that power. He was anointed to operate at that level of administration. That power was transferred to him. Write this down, please. Power will be transferred to God's people so we can fulfill his purpose. Power will always be transferred to God's people so that we can fulfill his purpose. All right, so now let's look at Genesis 45. Let's turn over there. Genesis 45. Genesis 45, verse 5 is when Joseph is talking to his brothers who sold him into slavery. All right, so now we know Joseph was in slavery. These are the people that sold him into slavery. Genesis 45, and I'm going to pick up in verse 5. He says, now therefore, be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that you sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. Wait a minute. Joseph was mugged. He was stripped of his coat of many colors. He was thrown into a pit, and then he was sold into slavery. But he's not stuck on that. He's not stuck on himself. He's not stuck on what happened to him. He's stuck on the purpose. The purpose, which in this case is to preserve life. He said, don't be angry with yourselves. Don't get caught up on that. Yeah, you beat me up. You threw me in a pit. You stole my coat. You sold me into slavery. But don't be mad with yourselves. He says, God sent me here to preserve life. This is the reason why I was given this power, to preserve life. What's the reason why God is transferring power to you now? You need to find out what your purpose is. You need to find out how your power that you're getting now relates to your purpose. He said he was here to preserve life, and then he gives specifics of it. He's still focused on that. Verse 6, he says, for these 2 years have the famine been in the land, and yet there's still 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. Verse 7, God sent me. Who sent him? God sent me before you to preserve you of posterity in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Did you know that other people's deliverance is waiting on the power that you demonstrate? Do you know that other people's change in their lives, other people's deliverance from bondage that they may be in is linked to you walking in your power? How many people do you think R.G. Latourneau affected by giving away 90% of his, not only his salary, but of his company's wealth?